No, that's next week.
Hey, Gary, you're still not able to live stream? No.
I'm recording it though.
We're trying to do a live stream through our community channel, and it wasn't working. I mean,
Maybe we need to figure out to get together.
I think what it is we have to do a setup a day ahead. I think we have to do a setup a day at a time, ahead of time. You know, we're trying to Hey, are you Jimmy? This is
What's your name? Was it really?
Somebody whistle.
All right, come to order.
I know you have nothing else to do on a beautiful day to spend a lot of time here. So we have a long agenda. We have a lot on our plate to get through. We have 3 guest speakers coming in today to give us updates on a couple of topics. We have a new attorney. Joshua is here today. We found a new one. He'll take a spot and give us an introduction to his firm. And then we have our insurance broker coming in to talk about the insurance program that we have to go through. We also have a contractor that's going to be installing roof clips for us. They're not really, it's a third nail, he'll explain it. But doing this is going to give us an eligible credit on our insurance next year of up to $150,000. So it's a big deal. It's a good thing for us. Our insurance broker actually gave us the introduction to this idea. So, you know, they've done a lot to help us save some money. So Tim and Brad, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so we start our meetings in the formal way. We do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I'm gonna stand for my talking part, so that you can hear me. And if you can't hear me in the back, tell me to speak up, because my voice always goes low. They don't trust me with karaoke speakers yet. So we have a quorum. We have 30% or more of the board here. Gary was not able to attend. He works full-time during the day. So for these daytime meetings, he's not able to make it. And then we put the notice out to everybody. It went out on the email. It went out on the board 48 hours in advance, so that we met the notice period of time. In terms of the reading of the minutes from last, I'm going to ask that we vote to approve passing of the minutes unless somebody has a very specific question on the minutes that we sent out after the meeting in the email to everybody.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks. In terms of topics, I already went through. We have the president's and treasurer's report. Then we have a bunch of new business that we're going to work through. What we're going to try to do in terms of questions and answers, what I'd like to try to do is we'll get to the questions as they come up, but at a certain point in time, if we start to go too long, I'm not going to try to be rude. I'm just going to say we need to table that and bring it up at a different time. It doesn't mean it's not important to us. Dominic's going to be taking the note of who asks the question, what the question is, so that way we can make sure that we get back to people. And we typically try to include answers in the minutes to the board meeting, so you can actually go back and see that. We have our new attorney here, Joshua. We have Tim and Brad here from Heritage Insurance. They're going to talk about our insurance program. I promised they did wear bulletproof vests and everything else. But they've done a terrific job for us. We changed brokers this year, and I think you'll see what they've done for us. And then we have the wind mitigation roof clip installation. They'll be here. We're going to go through the special assessment to cover the difference, I think there's $53,000 difference that we had in our insurance premiums versus budget. And then we have some reserve expenses that we have to approve that we've spent on that are going to impact our reserves. And then we'll motion to adjourn. First up, between Diana and David, they did a yeoman's job in terms of working with Tim and Brad to keep our insurance premiums low. There's a lot of research that had to go on. We had to do a lot of things. We had to get updated wind mitigation reports. We went back and forth. Diana actually found a $300 lower price per building to do the wind mitigation reports. She went out and even went to the point of, we had some recommendations from the inspector that did wind mitigation that said for $2,600 you can install some wind mitigation on those doors there, and this building would then receive a $4,000 a year credit going forward. So we're going to plan to do that, but we didn't have time to get it done for this insurance credit. So, and then David, endlessly going back and forth, looking at what we were spending last year, had all the history of what we've done with our insurance companies over the years. Between the two of them, they did really a yeoman's job. They saved over $45,000 in this renewal just by the efforts that they put in. Now, Sandy Abbott, and there's been a bunch of volunteers that actually helped sell some raffle tickets. So the Landscaping and Maintenance Committee is newly formed. We talked about it at the last board meeting. What we're trying to do is raise money outside of having to ask the HOA for money. We raised almost $1,000, and these will be put towards calusos and plantings that we will be putting in strategic places around the community, right? So we want to look at trying to do something in your backyard, in that big field. We have a bunch of dead ficus that we had removed that we need to replace. So we have a few other areas. The ficus bushes that we found some pricing on are very, very strong, so you can get 4-foot plants for under $40. So you can do the math, we can get quite a bit for that. And we'll plan on having other raffles so that we can do this type of thing where we can give away a good prize and we can raise some money and not have to take it from our reserves or our operating expenses. So thank you, Sandy, for all the work that you did there. And then Sandy. So you'll see Sandy's name again, and Rick and Frank Albano, and Jim Bodie. So they did something, and I think everybody does this in a certain way in this community, right? They help a neighbor out, right? So they went and have helped a couple of neighbors work through some situations, right? So when people call in and say, hey, Ron, or the office, call Phil or Dominic to say, this is a mess, I need help here, I need some help with some landscaping, doesn't look right. The HOA only takes care of certain landscaping. The stuff that's next to your buildings is usually your responsibility. But this committee now is going out and seeing what they can do to help. So volunteering, they actually went out and actually did help plantings and actually helped a couple of our community members improve their landscaping. So, again, it's the best example of a community working together. And then the new landscaping committee, thanks for all the stuff that you've been doing as well. We've had 2 meetings on it. And we did agree at the last meeting, because it's a committee and there's new 718 regulation where we will be publishing the minutes of the discussions that go on and what we're talking about doing. We'll put that out on the webpage, so that way you can actually see what's this group all about. And if we have any volunteers that want to be part of this committee, we're still open for people helping us out. Some quick updates. These were not in the PowerPoint that I sent out, these quick updates. I just wanted to do a quick rundown of a few topics that we've been talking about. First is accounts receivable has been a big topic for the last 3 years. If everybody can remember, it was as high as almost 48,000 at one time. We've gotten it down to 12,000. We're very aggressively, rigorously calling and working with our unit owners to collect our money. So we've had terrific opportunity there. And now with Joshua coming on board, we're going to have a new attorney that will have a slightly different approach to collections, not just sending it and having letters go back and forth with not a lot happening. So, again, I think we're making good progress. We haven't forgot about the desire to become FHA approved. There's a number of residents that want to be able to qualify for reverse mortgages. Cost of everything's going up. They might want to. Right now, we're not qualified for FHA, and you can't get a reverse mortgage. But to do this, we'll have to go through an actual addendum to our board docs, our condo docs, to actually make an amendment to allow renting, because that's what's the restriction that we're not passing when we apply, right? That's a very delicate topic, and everybody in the association, or that owns property here, has to vote. And you need 75% majority to pass that, right? So it's a big uphill battle to get through that, because I think there's a lot of varying opinions. But we put together a nice letter that is going to outline the pros and cons, not trying to push one or the other, just the pros and cons of it, so people can read through it and say, oh, maybe I changed my mind, I'm against it now. Or I read it and I'm like, okay, maybe now I'm thinking about it, it's not a bad idea. We tried to blend into our recommendation a number of what we call restrictions. All the other sections rent. We met with all the presidents. We talked to them about the things that work and don't work. We tried to take the things that don't work and blend it into our recommendation, right? So there's a lot of work ahead of that thing. It's not one of these simple things that you can just say, let's go do it. So that we'll get on that now that the insurance is behind us. Want to remember, there's a new website out there. So if you still haven't been able to get access to it, or you're having trouble accessing it, please send an email to the office, okay? And we will follow up. I can go in and I can actually see if somebody's actually having difficulty getting in. And what I've done is proactively gone out and sent emails with new passwords to help people in. But if you need any help with it, please just send an email and we'll be happy to make sure we get in touch with you to help you through it. There's a lot of good information out there. And the best thing I like about it is you can put your own work tickets in, and then you can track them all, right? You can see who it's assigned to, when it was done. If they closed it and you didn't like what they did, you can reopen it and say it's not done to my liking. Let's fix this the right way. So that to me was one of the best values. And there's a calendar that's updated regularly by Gary. If you have plug-in hot water heaters, Tom brought this up a year ago. We've been on a push and a mission to get these done. We're now at the point where we're assuming that people aren't going to do their own. So we will be doing them, but you'll be getting a charge back to pay for the replacement of it, right? So there's been a number of electricians in the area that have been doing these at reasonable prices. We're going to try to do the same thing here. We're going to try to get it done at a reasonable price, but this has to be done, part of our insurance going into next year. You know, when they finally get in and inspect all of our laundry rooms with all of our electrical, that's going to be the next big hurdle for all of us to get through. This is one that we can all take on ourselves to make some headway on. Let's talk trash. We talked a lot of trash last meeting. I just want to personally thank everybody for actually helping out, keeping the place cleaner, right? And I think it's gotten a lot better, at least in my eyes. If it's not in yours, you know, please bring it to my attention. What we're doing is if somebody's putting their garbage out ahead of time or too early, or they're putting bulk out before they should, what we're doing is Miguel is actually picking it up and he's taking it to the dump here, right? But we're actually noting the buildings that it came from, and we're sending a note to all the owners of those buildings. We don't know who did it. We're not going through the trash, right? But the point being is sometimes people come back to me and say, well, that wasn't my chair out there or whatever. But the point being is, you know, we just need to communicate with everybody that we do have some rules, and some people don't read it, you know, some people don't know, right? And we always say that if you're leaving early or you can't make it, bring your stuff down here, right? Just bring it down here. Okay, that's enough trash. Trimming landscape. This was on our agenda for the last year as well. Any landscaping that you have that's touching a building, physically touching a building that's a runway for rodents and insects, has got to be cleared out. So when Al comes back for his next trimming, we're going to be working with him to actually do that trimming. And I know there's a lot of prized plantings that people have, you know, and we're going to try to be as gentle as we can, but, you know, this is where we have to go, right? We have to, because we have termites, we have rodents, right? We're continually fighting this, right?
We got Zimmerman coming in, so they'll do a lot too.
Yeah, well, we're going to do so. I'll talk to you. Unit owners are responsible for shutters. You know, I've been trying to do some research on how this actually worked, but evidently when each unit was purchased, it was purchased with the option of the shutters originally, the original sale. So these shutters are actually owned by the unit owners, right? So and I believe it came up a few years ago. Everybody's got to keep their shutters in decent working order, and they have to be maintained, right? So you see some that are tipped upside down, some that are falling over, others that are black, right? You know, so we're going to work on trying to come up with a discount price for somebody to come through and do power washing, right? So if we can do that, then we can make the price reasonable for everybody. You don't have to feel the burden of like, I got to go pay somebody $150 to do something that, you know, we can help with. That's the landscape and maintenance committee that's going to actually try to organize that. There's a security patrol in section 3. You'll see a slide. They bought a police car, and what they're looking for is volunteers that would take 2-hour shifts to do rotating through all 7 sections. And I think this was done years and years ago in section 6. They did this, and so we had it here. Yeah. Okay. So just by notice, if somebody's a good driver, I think we all are.
Yeah, I was on that patrol.
Go ahead.
And the city, we worked with the city volunteer thing. They just brought that back last week. So the city is already bringing back their volunteers that day. And that was the ones that were working in here and stuff too. Whatever allows it.
Okay. So anyway, so that's coming. We're going to hold off on redoing the women's bathroom here until after the season, right? Because right now we don't want to force the women to have to go into the men's room while you're at the pool, right? So it's just out of respect to that. So we'll start that after the season starts. Okay, and this is the thing. It's on the website now already, but this is the ad for it and who to call. Now I'm going to flip really quickly to a treasurer's report. In terms of the treasurer's report, we had strong revenue for the month of January. I did get a quick peek at February. We had strong numbers for both months. We're not negative this year. So you can see that we ended up with, $15,000 worth of income. Last year, you saw the last several months of last year, we were actually negative income. We had a very difficult year last year because we funded half of the insurance increase out of our operating account, right? So we're back on track from a cash flow perspective. When you look at our assets and our liabilities, we have strong equity of almost $300,000. So if we had to liquidate today, there'd be $300,000 in our pocket, if you think of it that way, right? Won't happen, but the point being is if you have negative equity or zero equity, you're in a really bad situation. Your liabilities far exceed your assets. So we're strong there. The reserves still remain strong at 901. We have been tapping our reserves this year with things that we consider anything that we're doing that would be a long-term improvement to any infrastructure part of the organization of the facility. So when we do lights, when we have to fix a pump, when we do these things. So instead of running these through the operating account, which we have the choice of going either way, it's just our operating account is very lean. And so what we're doing is we're using our reserves for some of those expenses. Once we get back on track, which I would hope that by 2025, 2026, we will be back on track with a slightly different expense run. But time will tell where inflation continues to go and what happens with the utilities and such. Accounts receivable, a lot of detail here, but these are actually the 12 actual individuals that owe us money. No names. No embarrassments, right? Because I can tell you there's people here that we're working with. We talk to all of them. There are people here that have financial hardships, right? So we're trying to work through plans to make sure that they can pay us over time, right? So, but it's down to a good list now, and we're working it as hard as we can. So we share that so that you can actually see sort of what's in action here. I don't know if anybody saw this in the PowerPoint that I sent out. This is a 5-year trend of our expenses. Okay, the reason I wanted to show this is that our overall expenses have increased by $429,000 over 5 years. If you were to actually look at it over the last 3 years, actually the rate increase has been extremely much higher. Since COVID, everything went like this. So this is an average over 5 years. They've increased 44%. So now look at where have they increased. Insurance is up 163%. It represents $315,000 of that $429,000 increase, right? So when you sit there and say, what's driving our expense increases, right? The next one, maintenance, right? Our buildings were all built in 1972, right? I'm actually shocked it's as low as it is, right? So we've been doing a good balance between trying to fix it ourselves, defer things, using our reserves, but we live in old buildings and we're breaking pipes every day. That's gone up 32%. Utilities, 36%. So when you start to think of controllable expenses, insurance is not a controllable expense. We can do things to mitigate the increase, like put clips in, do additional wind mitigation, hire a good broker. But there's a certain extent to which we can, because it's market driven. And then reserves have increased by 22%. So part of the expense increase, the $24,000, is actually money that's going into the investment of the firm. So it's not money out. Now this other line is all the other expenses. Okay, so when people say, wow, we're spending a lot of money on all this other stuff, office admin, all these things, right? The HOA has been working over the years to try to negotiate better contracts and drive things down, right? So you can see over the 5 years, those costs have gone down by 29%, right? So the point of this slide is to give you an idea of where the expenses are being driven from, right? And then obviously it's our job as board members to reinforce to you what is it that we're doing to actually impact that. And then our loan balance is down 27%. We have 7 years left on that loan. And once we free up that loan, that's another $7,800 a month that we end up reducing our expenses by. Any questions on this chart? Okay, good, thank you.
I have one about the insurance.
Sure.
Could we suggest that, I know it's not fixable at this point, but you know what? We have political leaders that you can call and say, what the hell is happening here? We need help.
So we have Tim and Brad are all over that topic.
Okay.
And they're going to be able to talk about what's happening with, our local government, the Senate, right? What's happening with trying to pass bills to mitigate this issue, things that have been done, things that haven't. So they're going to go through that piece for us. So now we're going to get into the quick introductions. So we had the same attorney for a number of years here, and at least my experience over the last 3 years, we didn't get the best guidance. And I'll give you one example. We had a foreclosure. We ended up incurring over a period of 3 years, 4 years, 3 or 4 years, something like in the neighborhood of $15,000 worth of accounts receivable, right? There were two things that we could have done that we didn't. One is we could have exercised our first right to buy the foreclosure, okay? Never came up. Second thing is that we were billing for things that we were going to never collect because there's certain regulation that you can't, your clawback period of time is limited to a certain number of months. So we're sitting here thinking we're going to collect money. We're thinking, so the point being is, had we moved much quicker, much earlier on that thing, we would have reduced our loss. Now, we did do a good job of negotiating, and that was done on the part of the board. We kind of played it hardball because they wanted to sue us, say, well, we'll sue you if we can't sell it. And we said, go ahead, sue us. And they ended up negotiating with us. We got $8,000 out of that deal, but we had to write off the other, right? So that's a perfect example of where an attorney, and then we send AR receivables to them, and a lot of times not a lot's happening. So we're going to work with Joshua on that. So Joshua, I'll turn it over to you.
Sure. Thank you, everybody, for having me today. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Board of Directors. My name is Joshua Gersten, and what I'll do is I'll introduce myself a little, my firm, I'll tell you a few hot topics in this area, and then you guys can ask as many questions as you have, if you do, in fact, have any. I've been an attorney in Florida for 27 years in my firm. There's me and there's two other attorneys. I am board certified in condominium and planned land development. So technically, I am an expert in this area. My office currently represents approximately 200 community associations. There's condominiums, HOAs, one-time share, and there's a bunch of also commercial condominiums. As far as collections are concerned, dealing with the attorney, the board would have access to me. I'm the one that's here today. My other attorneys, they might meet a client or what have you. Those clients would primarily stick with them, but you guys would have access to me. I would be your sort of point of contact, and I'm the one that's going to be doing a lot of the work for you. As far as community associations are concerned, the advice that I am unfortunately giving all members, and not just directors and everyone else, is that things are expensive, and either they're going to get more expensive or they're going to stay at this level of inflation. Even if you hear inflation coming down in the economy, it's going to be a very long time. And even though it's not really going down in the economy, it's going to be a very long time until it trickles through to you guys here at this level. The one sort of saving grace is the fact that your units and homes, they are not 3 stories or more. So even though you're a condominium, you don't fall under that new SERS legislation that had to do with the Surfside tragedy. I can tell you that every single one of the condominium associations I represent are doing massive special assessments for insurance, and then another massive special assessment to comply with SERS, and then another one for construction that the SERS report, which is structural integrity, came back and said, this needs to be fixed, okay? And they are suffering. You guys also have your assessments and your inflation's going up, but to the extent there's a bright side, it is that you're not getting hit as bad as them, but it's happening all over the state, and it's been happening probably for about the last 2 years. I don't see it sort of ebbing in any way whatsoever. So as owners, keep that in mind when you're planning out your finances. Things will either be this way or they might actually get more expensive. The board can only do so much, and then it just cannot, pinch that penny anymore, and it comes out of the owners. Which leads me to collections. The collections numbers that he's telling me, and everything that goes along with it. When you enter the legal process, the way that it works is you get a 30-day letter from the association, mandated by law, and I'll help you guys with that. And then if you don't pay then you'll get a letter from my office. And that letter is not a good letter to get, it's standard verbiage, but there's a fee added onto that. The association doesn't pay for any of this. There's a fee added onto that. There's a 45-day letter. Okay, and if you get a letter from my office and you want to discuss it with me, don't wait till the last minute, call. You'll speak to somebody in my office. We can work through the board and set up a payment plan. We can figure that out, but don't ignore it. After that 45 days expires, another letter comes to you from my office. That letter has a lien in it, so we file a lien on a property. Okay, there's another fee there. So now you're probably looking at a couple $100 in extra fees. Okay, probably could have been avoided, picked up the phone and worked out a payment plan, nonetheless. Then after the lien is filed, the association has 1 year to foreclose. Now, if I know that a lot of people think, well, how could I be foreclosed on? I live in Florida, it's a homestead, this is my homestead. It doesn't work that way when it comes to maintenance assessments. It's considered work on the property, almost like a mechanic's lien or a contractor's lien. And you would be dispossessed from your home, even if there's a mortgage on it. So you would be foreclosed out of your home. The mortgage would still be owed, and it would be a very bad situation. So what you should do if you get a letter from me or a lien or even a loss, pick up the phone. We are fairly nice people. I think if you call after probably 10, we're nicer than if you call at 8 a.m. But no, I'm just kidding. And we'll be happy to the extent that the board allows it, we'll speak with them. We're not charging people for that time. It's not my goal or my firm's goal ever to foreclose on somebody's home. We've been doing it for 27 years, but it's one part of the job that something I can avoid. And if I can tell you, prepare for upcoming, finances, and please do not hesitate to sort of pick up the phone. The other item that's really a hot topic is amending governing documents, and that's and I've got some information in there. And the one thing that we'll focus on is renting, right? Renting for FHA. So, if you were to enact renting for the FHA purposes, just keep in mind the day after you pass that, nothing changes. You're still in your home, right? And the only people that would be able to rent are people that are currently planning on leaving and having, sort of a home to rent. So you don't have to worry about sort of a sudden massive change. And what you want to probably try to do, or at least consider, is maybe a 1 year waiting period to rent so that you don't attract investors. You'd have to get approval from the FHA. But I think a big concern would be is more or less having a rental community. And that is not what you'll have. You'll have a waiting period in there. So if somebody wants to be an investor, they'll probably move on to another association where they don't have to wait that 1 year. You also want to probably tighten up your leasing guidelines and also your sales guidelines to the extent that you want to just be able to perform background checks and credit checks. Okay? I can tell you how many times I have associations where they say, hey, can you look at this background check? This person has this crime or this person's credit is really bad. So I say, okay, what do you want me to look at it for? They're like, because we want to deny them. And then I look at their governing documents and they in fact have no ability to deny anybody. So this would be sort of a holistic overview of what you would go through if you're going to amend to allow leasing. You want to make sure your association gets the benefit of adding that leasing provision in there for the FHA purposes, but also nothing else really changes. Nothing else really changes. One final thing that's of note, the insurance people might touch on it if you guys are not throwing too many tomatoes at them, and it's not their fault, it really is. It's not the board's fault, but is a law that was passed last year for condominiums that will help them with lawsuits involving a crime. So, for example, if somebody was to be mugged on the property, a car gets stolen on the property, a common property, and the association owns that property, the association has some technical liability. As a matter of law, they would be a party to the lawsuit, and then there would be various negligence. Well, there's provisions in the law that allow for the association to say, hey, look, we did XYZ, security, there's cameras, lights, and training, okay, that's given to personnel, and then the association is found as a matter of law not to have liability for criminal acts on its property. Okay, so that would also be something that's coming forward, would help you guys save expenses. Those are the three big items now. The legislative session just ended. There are a lot of laws pending that affect condominiums. I don't know why they keep picking on community associations, but they do. However, we don't know which ones Governor DeSantis will actually sign, and we probably won't know for another month or so. All right, so things are evolving, and just as an aside, I'm in and out of community associations all the time, and your place looks great, and your website looks great, and it's so nice to see people inside here on such a beautiful day. So I applaud you all for that. It's really nice to see. So thank you for having me. I'm happy to answer as many questions as you have. You guys have any questions? Yes, ma'am?
Hi, I know you were saying something about what happened with Surfside. Now, let me ask, by January of next year, are we gonna have a structural integrity certificate with our association?
No, you will not.
You've probably seen this in communities with this reverse mortgage. Is that stuff working out? Because it seems to me if you have a reverse mortgage, and once that reverse mortgage is kind of used up, that might be an opportunity for that person to say, hey, I'm gonna stop paying my HOA. There's no value in my condo anymore. Do you see that?
Sure. The question is, you know, is a reverse mortgage a way to sort of suck money out of the property and then stop paying to be here? And that's really could be almost with any mortgage, right? If the association does not act fast on collections through my office, and Ron was sort of alluding to it, the law kicks in. If the bank forecloses, right? If the bank forecloses or the reverse mortgage tries to take over before the association's limited only to 12 months of the past due assessments or 2%. Right. So I haven't seen an increase in that, but it really is still the same. It's all the same. It's no different to the association than if a person just stopped paying their mortgage and left.
Yeah, but it's adding to the people that, the other situation that we have, where they're not paying the HOA at all. It's just adding to that.
Well, it does, but I can tell you this, I have not seen a rash of people under any circumstance, even a blip of people where they're getting a reverse mortgage and then they just stop paying the association. I haven't seen, I'm sure it happens, but not enough where I've actually noticed it.
Because we have to look at what the other communities are doing here also.
Right.
So I'll just add to that and then we'll go to the next question. Section 3 has reverse mortgages and they haven't had that problem.
Okay.
Right.
And as far as renting, that would be more of an insurance company question. Does that open us up to a bigger liability?
Higher amount of renters?
Allowing renting.
More renters.
Well, I mean, if it's more than, we'll cut out some liability carriers, because just by standard liability practices, owners take care of the unit and the common area is better than a rental unit per se. As long as it's long-term rentals, as long as you don't have transient risk like Airbnb, it's not gonna it'll have a marginal effect on it if the number of renters exceeds 50% of the unit owners.
Thank you.
Well,
You clearly described the collections process and stuff like that. I don't think anybody in here has got any kind of problems that we'd have to deal with that. So like the 12 or so people that are right now in that process, will that information be printed and sent to them now that we have you on board?
If they get a letter to me, if the letter's very clear on their instructions, contact me, please call me. Again, nobody likes to get a letter from the attorney, but all they have to do is call.
So
what I was relaying to you was partly the law.
So let me just describe one thing and then Frank, you go. A new key change in the process. We've never put a lien on any property. Right? So we've never been in that first right of foreclosure. I don't think we'll get to that 99% of the time, right? And the other thing that I wanted to also say is that, we don't want to be draconian when people have financial issues, right? We don't wanna be, you know, we wanna be human in this whole thing. And also with Joshua, in our last attorney, we were actually able to then start communicating with a couple of unit owners to come up with a payment plan. Once it went to our old attorney, we weren't able to intervene anymore. And it just became really difficult. But, you know, what we want to do is have the partnership where, look, if all of a sudden, you know, Frank's not paying his stuff for a long time and he finally comes to me after 3 letters and he's going to get his lien, he says, I'm willing to do something, and we work together on it. Yeah.
So it seems like you guys have done a great job in the last year or two, trying to get this.
Yeah.
caught
And
up.
now having this, I think it's going to give us that extra lever.
And the board will be able to track online 24/7 the status of collections. That's part of our service we offer.
You mentioned before a background check. You said we require a background check. We should if we go to renting, and the new purchasers require a background check. But you said we have no recourse if they've committed crimes or whatever. What's the purpose of the background check?
Well, it has to be in your bylaws. It has to be part of your condo docs that you can.
Right.
Okay, is it in our?
It is for new renters, but it's not for renters yet because we haven't covered the renter thing.
No,
But for anybody
owners?
that, oh yeah, we do background checks on every single person.
I understand we do,
Criminal one?
but if you find something
Yeah.
negative, what action can you take?
We can
You can
deny.
deny?
Okay, yeah.
I just
And
want
Joshua
to,
will help.
I just want to state, you know, when I first came to Florida, I rented in Huntington Lakes for over a year. I had to pay the condo association fee. They did a background check on me. They did a thing. They had to clear me before I was allowed to come in there. So, you know, that's the way it works.
Yeah, guys, what I want to do is not turn this into a rent meeting because
Yeah.
we haven't even got the letter out to you guys.
Yes.
I want to get the letter out to you guys.
Here's another thing,
it might not
even happen.
One question in the back.
So when I first bought, we had a restriction in place that I could not have anyone on my property, I wasn't physically there. And is that still in place?
Yes.
And if you go to rental, am I allowed to have family when I'm not there?
You would apply, there would be a distinction between a rental and a guest, right? So if your family was going to stay longer than.
No, just like a week or two. Like,
Okay, I'm saying-
First of all, is that restriction still in place?
Everything's still in effect,
Okay.
nothing has changed.
Yeah.
And ultimately, if you do go this route, there will be in your governing documents a distinction between a guest and a rental. A guest will be defined by a time period. If you anticipate your family staying longer than that time period, then they would have to apply as a rental.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and I promise everybody, and it's being taped because it's going to be put on the channel, we will have a special meeting specifically on this discussion. We're going to gather some data from all the unit owners to see are we feeling like this is something we would even be worth doing? Because if we get 75% that come back and say we don't want it, we're going to kill it, you know? Because there's no sense spending a lot of money and time on it. When we get close, we will have a meeting specifically on that.
Yes, ma'am.
Isn't there such a thing as a conventional reverse mortgage?
In what sense?
Well, they're looking to go with FHA.
Well, FHA backs it.
Yeah,
So-
that's it, and it's the only.
Yeah, it's like, you can get a reverse mortgage from Bank of America,
Right.
but they still go through FHA.
And it has to be approved through
So
FHA.
all reverse mortgages.
Pretty
now
much,
go
pretty much
with
backed by,
FHA.
yeah, right, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, right, so they're the guarantor, they're the
Okay.
guarantor.
So guys, I want to keep the meeting going because we have
Yeah,
guests
so-
here and then we have one more and we have some other things to get.
All right,
Go
last
back.
question, I'm sorry,
One quick question, get away from rental, but, would that negate, the homestead if you were renting your property?
well, if you were living elsewhere,
Yeah.
if you're living elsewhere, then yes, it would.
A lot of good points. Last one, Tom.
Last one.
Okay. Sounds like you're sending us a letter out maybe to determine whether we're gonna vote on renting and reverse mortgage. They're not gonna be tied.
No, they have to be tied together.
Two separate issues,
No,
right?
they have to be tied together because the only way we can rent
Right.
is.
The only way you get a
No,
reverse mortgage.
no, okay, good point, Tom. Okay, let me try to clarify what I just heard. The only reason we're bringing rent forward is to be FHA approved for reverse mortgages. If you're saying you want to have a separate vote forget about FHA. We just want to have the right to rent here. I mean, we could put that as an option in the questionnaire.
But you might end up with, no to reverse mortgages, but yes to rent.
That's right.
Yeah, okay, good point, Tom. So we took that-
Potentially separate it out.
Okay, we took that down. Okay, last question, then we gotta go to these guys.
I just wanted to bring to attention, people, I'm not for renting or anything, but we just found out from our real estate agent that
people who go through VA loans are not approved for rent
Yep.
to buy in a section 4.
Correct, because we're not FHA, because we're not FHA approved.
Right.
Yep, so there's a bunch of good reasons to become it, and so I think we all have to have that in the letter so everybody can read it and make a decision. We're the only section that doesn't allow it, by the way, so.
Have you noticed the difference in property values? If you're going on, so it's not.
No. Okay, guys, I wanna.
She had one question.
I know, because we have a whole bunch more to get through here today.
Okay.
So thank you. But one more, go ahead.
Yeah, because we're not buying lunch.
Is that letter coming out before, like, because we're not here year round?
You'll have more than enough time for that letter to see it. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. All right. Thank you, everybody. It was great meeting everybody.
Okay, okay, we're gonna jump right to our buddies Tom and Brad from Franklin.
All right. You're on deck. You're
I'll get another.
Hi folks, my name is Brad Lubin. I'm with Franklin Hamilton Insurance. We're your new insurance agent. Obviously hot button topic. I heard a couple questions which will address a lot of the state of the market. It has not been pretty. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. 2024 seems to be doing a lot better than 2023. Okay, one of those things that helped us out was we had a quiet storm season. Okay, knock on wood, we need another one for 2024, right? So we do have some carriers that are starting to come back into the marketplace, both on homeowners insurance and on the commercial side that are insuring condo buildings. None of these new carriers, unfortunately, were a fit for High Point 4, just because of year built or what have you. But when there's more carriers entering the marketplace, it means there's more competition. What happens when there's more competition? Premiums go down, right? That's what we need. Essentially, what's been happening in Florida is that since 2017, we saw rates kind of stabilize, coming flat. Prior to that, we were having savings. The premiums were going the other way. From about 2012 to 2017, for that period of 5 years, we had premiums being cut in half in some scenarios, okay? So 2017 Irma happened. So the carriers kind of pressed the brakes on reducing premiums. They leveled out. And then since 2017, we've had a lot of storm activity, right? Every year since 2017, we had a storm come through Florida, not necessarily South Florida, but we've had a storm hit Florida pretty much every year. Then, add to it, we had the Surfside collapse, which, as Joshua, the attorney, was just mentioning, and I think somebody had a question about Surfside, right?
Yeah.
That essentially caused some Senate bills to be passed. In my opinion, I think the bill that was passed, the heart was in the right place, but a little bit overreaching, but that's besides the point. It doesn't affect you guys, so that's a good thing. But, essentially, since the Surfside collapse, we're seeing a lot of factors come in. Number one, insurance companies have a major issue with the evaluations on the buildings, these appraisals, right? You guys fall under Florida Statute 718, which is the condo statute that governs condominiums here in the state. And actually, if 718 calls it out, it actually supersedes anything your doc said. So basically, if 718 says it, you have to follow the rule there. If it's ambiguous on it, and then your docs would call it out specifically with regards to insurance or any other matter. So 718 states you have to have a new appraisal done every 3 years, okay? And what's happened with the Surfside collapse is that building was actually tremendously undervalued. And in the years leading up to that collapse, what was happening is you had appraisers coming in and insurance agents coming in and saying, hey, if we lower your values by 10%, we lower your hurricane deductible by 10%, we lower your rate by 10%. And so it was a little bit of a greed factor. Yes, folks, South Florida has some greed in it. I don't know if you guys know that about it. We also have fraud issues and everything else. But so what's happening now is that we're seeing the insurance carriers, we can have a brand new appraisal done, and if the insurance carrier doesn't agree on what's called the price per square foot on these reports, they're saying we are not taking the report. Here's the number we want to be at to insure the buildings. Okay, so that's what's happening too. That's, again, that didn't happen with High Point. I'm just talking about state of the market. So these rates, as you guys saw what you're paying as, like a few years ago, it's more than doubled in premium, right? You guys aren't alone. Every other community out there is having these large increases. But again, some of the factors that are causing these insurance companies to now enter back into the marketplace or dip their toe in, so to speak. In the session that we had in December of 22, we had a few bills that were passed that are very positive for the insurance companies, okay? Things that changed the subrogation laws, okay? The statute of limitations on turning over a wind claim. It used to be 3 years. You had 3 years to turn over a wind claim. Now it's 1 year, which makes a lot more sense when you think about it. I mean, a month after the storm comes, if you see water coming down the wall, then you have a breach on your roof, right? So what happened, why they changed that, by the way, is that due to Irma in 2017, when the statute of limitations was 3 years, the state of Florida had the most amount of wind claims in its history turn over in August of 2020. Do the math there? That's 2 years and 11 months. So the statute of limitation was 3 years. Okay, and I'm glad Joshua left because I'm going to say something about attorneys right now. But basically what was happening is you had attorneys, you had public adjusters coming in, knocking on doors and saying, hey, everybody, we can get you a new roof. Let us go up there and look around. It was happening with homeowners and community associations. So that caused the insurance premiums to spike. So having it as 1 year is a benefit because I don't think there's going to be a lot of time for those companies to get together and try to scam the insurance companies. Now, don't cry for the insurance companies, okay? They still have money. Obviously, they're charging quite a bit. Anytime Tim and I go to these, insurance seminars or what have you, all the underwriters are staying at the Four Seasons. So they still have money. Don't worry about the insurance companies. But they're in the business of cashing checks, not writing them, right? We don't have the wool pulled over our eyes. We have board members that say all the time, we just want an insurance company that's going to pay out on the claims if, God forbid, we need them. I'll let you know when I find that unicorn, folks, because these insurance companies, they do not want to pay out on claims, okay? They're all going to play the same games. And look, if God forbid there was a claim, or I'm not talking about water damage, small claims like that, a massive catastrophic type claim, then we're probably going to work with the board and probably suggest getting a public adjuster. If the insurance company isn't acting right, then we're going to go out and get a public adjuster to try to, represent our side of it, okay? The other Senate bill that was passed that's going to help the insurance companies and why they're wanting to come back into Florida, attorneys, and again, glad he left, attorneys used to be charged 9 times their billable hours if there was a bad faith claim against the insurance company. If the judge rewarded them and said, hey, you're not paying out on this, not only do you have to pay the claim, you have to pay that attorney 9 times their billable hours for what they worked on the case. So what does that mean for the insurance companies? They were trying to settle cases, even the most frivolous type of lawsuits or open claims. They just wanted to pay it to go away because they didn't want to be on the hook for 9 times the billable hours. Now the attorney can only charge, I believe, the one-time fee for their hour, okay? Another thing that is also passed in that Senate was now the state of Florida has a pool of money that sits out there. It's basically called a reinsurance fund, and what that is companies like who we placed your property with this year was American Coastal, okay, who, by the way, for the property insurance, it's an admitted carrier. There's 2 different types of carriers for property insurance. There's admitted and non-admitted or surplus lines. Admitted carriers are backed by the state. If American Coastal became financially insolvent, the state of Florida would step in and pay their claims. It's backed by FIGA, the Florida Insurance Guarantee Act. Okay? So it's very, very safe, the carrier that we have you placed with. But they all have, the American Coastal, your current carrier, has access because they're an admitted carrier to that pool of money, which is called the CAT fund. They'd be able to go and withdraw money from that if they had a financial hardship. So that's something that was passed and now sits at a few $1 billion as well. Okay? I'm sure you folks have seen it on your auto insurance, on your home insurance. A lot of carriers left the marketplace. They really started to leave the marketplace in 2020. I think in 2022, we had 13 different insurance companies leave the marketplace. They're coming back in, okay? It's starting to open up. Like I said, there's more competition. But that being said, I'll kind of open it up. I can get into specifics about the insurance for the association. Nothing too specific, right? We don't want to talk about liability limits because we don't want banana peels all over the pool deck and everybody slipping and falling looking for a payout. South Florida has that problem. We're the most litigious place in the country. The southern 3 counties down here, everybody's got an attorney on the speed dial. But we'd be more than willing to talk about general insurance that you guys have in place. But I'll open it up to Q&A if anybody has any insurance questions. I can't, oh, okay, I was about to say, I can't believe this has never happened before.
Do you feel that climate change affects insurance?
Well, it does with, I mean, I'm not a scientist, right? But it's storm activity has certainly been picked up since 2017. I mean, for a period, I would say, what was it, from 2008, 2009 through 2017, we basically, Florida didn't have a catastrophic hurricane. We might have had some tropical storms or what have you, but storm activity, with the exception of 2023, has been, we've had a Category 4 or Category 5 hit either Florida or the southeastern United States. So, and by the way, I'll just give you an example of how even if a storm hits Louisiana, we had a storm called Ida that hit Louisiana, and it bankrupted an insurance carrier, a homeowner's insurance carrier called Lighthouse. It bankrupted them, and now you have 50,000 homeowners now looking for insurance. So what happens, the carriers remaining down here are going to take one of those 50,000, but they're going to charge them a much higher premium, right? So I do think it has something to do with it, definitely, just because of the storm activity. It's a cause and effect type of thing. If we have global warming, more storm activity, the warmer waters, obviously, if the ocean water's warm, that means a storm is going to pick up steam. So I think there is something to that, but it's an indirect impact.
Yeah, because I hear an awful lot that inflation is driving up the cost. Probably a little bit, but
of course.
Geez, we have inflation in New York also, but my homeowner's policy went up about $15 in 5 years.
Right. Well, I mean,
So,
New York had Superstorm Sandy.
yeah, New York had the Twin Towers go down.
That's true.
Lots of things.
So all these catastrophic events, it doesn't have to be just hurricanes. There's reinsurance, as I mentioned, which is more at the global level, which, by the way, reinsurance is just basically your insurance carrier's way of diversifying your risk portfolio in the background. That's what they're doing. American Coastal, for example, they insure condo buildings in Florida. If they had to hold the bag on all of that risk, they'd be out of business like that. So what they do is they diversify their portfolio globally at places like Lloyd's of London, which is actually, people think that's an insurance carrier. I know they insured Betty Brable's legs, but they are actually, it's a marketplace where reinsurance is bought and sold like a commodity. So you might have a company like American Coastal that goes to Lloyd's of London and says, we have $50 billion in risk exposure in Florida, and they'll trade risk with somebody that's maybe insuring high-rise buildings in Dubai or marinas in Tokyo, and that diversifies their risk so they don't have all their eggs in one basket down here. But to your point, yes, New York has inflation, everywhere has inflation, but Florida has taken so many direct hits from 2017 up to 2022. I think the last $1 billion event we had was Ian over on the West Coast. So yes, the insurance rates here are astronomical.
Yeah, is it fair to say that the insurance went up tripled in the last 5 years?
Triple in the last 5, and I think it's like somewhere around there, two to three times. There you go. Yeah, so.
And you can also see the dramatic increase actually happened between 2021 and 2023. So we were actually pretty flat for those. So it's happened since COVID and since these last large events. And then, as Brad said, you have all these insurance companies, standard markets exiting. There's not the insurance capacity to fill.
Yeah, remember what I said about the 13 carriers leaving in 2022? See what happened the very following year. That's why we need competition back down here. As they say, fools rush in. So, yes, ma'am.
As far as cutting costs on insurance premiums. What does compliance with Miami-Dade for windows and shutters do for our insurance premiums?
Yeah.
If every home in here was Miami-Dade approved for windows or shutters,
Opening.
you know, not the clamshell, and could you explain to people, because I still have people say, well, I have shutters, I have clamshell shutters, and I'm like, that doesn't mean anything.
That's not Miami-Dade rated, yeah. So the Florida Building Code, all the counties basically follow Miami-Dade's code, which was changed in 2002. So basically, any shutter that was done prior to that date is not what's called impact rated for the purposes of insurance companies. Now, that being said, for condo associations, it's very difficult because windows specifically are what's called a limited common element. So that means there's shared responsibility. And I'll use the analogy that if those windows are blown out during a hurricane or an explosion or a catastrophic event, it's covered under our policy. If a golf ball goes through your window, it's on you as a unit owner, right? So it's a shared responsibility on, you know, the association and the unit owner. Now, if you want to put in an impact glass, who has to pay for that?
Me.
You do, right, the association does. And so you incur the cost of that. However, and now and you get the benefit on your homeowner's policy that you get that opening protection credit because that's all they're insuring is your unit. We're insuring the buildings. So if your next door neighbor doesn't have it, then it's an all or none thing. In other words, if there's one pane of glass in that building that does not have impact rated or is not, you know, Miami-Dade shutter compliant, you get no credit from the commercial carrier.
Right.
So my question then is, can a condo association do anything to help homeowners get into Miami-Dade compliance?
Sure. So there's a couple things out there. There's, and I'm not too well versed on it. There's grants that are out there that you can get from the state that can, you know, that you can use for betterments and improvement in your home. So that's one way to go. The easiest thing for the association to do is something that Ron alluded to before, which not only is there opening protections on what's called the wind mitigation form, there's opening protection, which is a big credit. You guys have newer roofs, but also what the insurance companies want to know is how the roof is attached to that concrete siding. And there's 4 different levels of mitigation credits. There's toenails, which are nails that go straight through, which is what we have now, which is the worst credit you can get. There's clips, which is a metal piece on either side of that wood truss that keeps it attached. Then there's the single strap, which is a metal wrap that goes around it. And then there's double straps, which is the best credit you can get. What we're talking about now potentially is doing what's called retrofitting and getting, because it's the biggest jump in credit to go from toenails to clips. Now there's a major cost associated with that, but that cost is pretty much offset once that job is complete. And here's the thing. So you pretty much pay off, you know, on the insurance discount, you're getting a credit that would offset the cost of it, but you get that credit every year over year. Okay. So that's short of picking these buildings up and moving them to Georgia. I mean, that's probably the best thing you can do to help offset the insurance increases.
So you can't say something like, we're going to have we really need to get people in compliance, and we'd like every homeowner in here to have either shutters or impact windows within a certain period of time. Can that be done?
Well, that's more of a legal question, and I don't know that the board has the teeth to be able to do that, because you're going to have people that say, I'm just not doing it. And then
A hardship, they can't afford it, you
Yeah.
can't make it mandatory.
right.
But let me just try to address, we actually are researching ways that we could maybe incent
Yes.
the buildings to become that way. So for example, they do have this new wind mitigation cloth, I don't know what, it's like a fabric, right? Again, it's a lower cost way of giving yourself wind protection, right? So we're gonna look at different options. We have to get through the next couple of years, because right now our reserves are, you know, getting kicked hard, right? We're doing the roofs this year for the clips. That's gonna give us a credit up to $150,000 next year on our insurance. It's gonna take us a full year to pay that off, but then from year 2 to the year we have to replace these roofs, you're getting that credit every year. So that's a big credit for us, right?
Not just on the commercial, on your homeowners as well.
Yeah,
So
you'll
as
be
soon
able to
as
use that
that's
on
done-
your wind mitigation
Yeah.
for your own.
That's
So
right.
that's the first step, but we're continuing to try to come up with creative ways. But we went through the scenario of, and we counted all the windows in this place that need to be upgraded to wind protection. I can tell you, I think, you know, everybody in this room will be unfortunately dead and gone, and their relatives will own their units before. I just can't see it. Unless we can come up with an in-between option, which might not be glass, right? We can come up with an option of getting a large volume discount on the shutters, for example. Right?
Yeah, that's.
So, okay, and that's what we're looking into to see what we can do,
I mean,
right?
I understand people can't afford it.
Yeah.
I have windows, if I had to buy them today, I wouldn't be able to afford them.
Yeah, right,
But I
exactly.
got them when I could afford them, and now I'm set, but I understand that, I'm not trying to.
No, I know you're not,
nasty.
but I was just trying to answer your question, but it's a good question.
And there are different levels of opening protection. For example, if it is impact rated, that's what they call 1A. And then if it's shuttered, it's A2. Well, why would they give different levels? Because it's still opening protected. The human element. I forgot to put my shutters up. If the impact glass is just, it's there, you don't have to do anything. If somebody forgets to put their shutters up, then that's the reason why they give a little bit more of a credit for that as well.
So could I get you guys to switch to the program itself now?
Sure,
For
of course.
this year, so then I can get to, because we have to go through the approval of the assessment.
Got it. Okay. So you wanna kind of jump into that? You want us to go through, how specific do you want us to be? Like I said, I don't want to get into liability limits because.
No, I want, because that's all gonna be posted up on the
Okay.
webpage, right? We're gonna be able, everybody's gonna be able to see it.
Okay.
Right, but I think any material changes from last year, American Coastal to our new,
Yeah.
right, any material changes, I don't think there are any.
Right.
I don't think I saw any.
No.
Right, but what you've gone through in terms of securing the premium, and what that premium is compared to last year, they'll see it, they've seen it.
Alright, okay. So, originally when we started, we thought Citizens was gonna be the play this year. And that was due to getting new wind mitigations, getting the new reports to go there. What actually turned out was Citizens came in less than 20% more than American Coastal. Okay, so Citizens was not an option, but what we were able to do is use that indication, go back to American Coastal, and drive down the premium by, looks like $35,000. So overall increase for the property was 13.73%. So what we're seeing in the industry right now is anywhere between 35 to 60% increase with American Coastal. So we did have a significant savings there. Philly, Brad probably talked to Philly, their prices are going extremely high in the state of Florida.
So yeah,
Philly's our liability.
Yeah, for liability,
Just
for
for
slip and
liability.
falls, and look, the loss history here is clean, so you have a clean loss history. Philadelphia's a very good insurance company. We replaced it with Mount Holly, which it was much more cost-effective option. I think it saved in the excess of like around $10,000 by doing that. Philadelphia Insurance Company, not every carrier pulls out of the market, but what they do is they give you a renewal offer that, okay, we'll cash that check if you want to write it, but it's really not something that's feasible. So in the shopping process, we found a carrier that was much more inexpensive on the liability coverage.
So the same thing applied for the directors and officers. We were able to move that, find a new carrier, and that resulted in $3,000 additional savings, or 24%. So we're able to save money there as well. The crime, that stayed where it is, but it did go down 26%. So we can see all the other policies besides the property are actually staying flat or going down. So that is a good indication for the upcoming year. The umbrella, that was actually changed from JGS to Midvale. And we were able to secure a 22% savings or another $6,000 from your premiums. And then the workers' comp, that stayed, well, actually, it went down 10%.
Yeah, that's the one we can't take credit for. Rates are set by the state with workers' compensation, so unfortunately, we'll take credit for it, but we didn't really do anything for it. But, with also, and by the way, the FHA situation too, if that is a route that you as a community decide to take, American Coastal affords some bells and whistles that's gonna get the loans pushed through a lot quicker than what Citizens would. One of those is called ordinance or law coverage, which you have with American Coastal, which basically what it is it gives you money for the code upgrades. We were just talking about windows. Let's say this window right here is non-impact rated, okay? And a storm blows it out, costs $100 to replace, okay? But a window, you call a window company, they come out and they're gonna replace it, but now up to building code though. It's gonna be impact rated, okay? With Citizens, they give you money for replacement costs, for like kind of quality. So with Citizens, you get $100 for that window. With American Coastal, through ordinance or law, if it costs $300 for impact rated, ordinance or law kicks in the extra $200 to bring it up to code. Now that's not just with windows, that's with roofs, windows, doors, plumbing, electrical, all the components of your building. So FHA likes the fact that it would be with American Coastal much more than Citizens. That's not to say they would decline loans here because of Citizens. There's some ancillary policies we could buy. You can buy a separate policy that has ordinance or law, but it's an additional cost. And like Tim just said, Citizens wasn't a cost-effective option. American Coastal was, so it became a moot point anyway. Okay.
So I think, Ron, the position we're in right now is we're able to pivot, I believe, next year to Citizens. If we go forward with that retrofit, that $145,000 to $160,000 in premium that we'll recognize by doing that, will definitely be within, 20% lower than what's currently out in the market for next year. So.
Right, and by the way, if we have another quiet storm season, American Coastal seems to have rates going the other way now, where they're, in certain scenarios for newer construction, we're actually seeing reductions, believe it or not. So, we'll see what happens. A lot can happen in a year, but one thing I didn't get into, by the way, we're neighbors. We're right here down the street from you guys, right on Congress in Germantown, just south of Lytton there. We insure a few of the other associations in here, number 1 and number 3 next door we have. And this is all we do. We represent over 300 associations. So if something happens within the industry for insurance and community associations, or any of the ancillary type of things that affect community associations, we're in the know. This is all we do, is community association insurance, okay?
So, and I also want to give these guys credit also is, at the last minute last year, we had to do an assessment, evaluation assessment, and we had to do it at the very last minute. So Plastridge came in and said, you got to do this, right? Because we were up at the 5 years. So we went out and we just grabbed the first we could find, we got the cheapest. They came in here, just did a broad brush. We were able to update that, and I think our values went down by 4%.
Yeah. 6%,
somewhere in that neighborhood. So,
right.
So there's been a bunch of stuff. I have to just say to you is, it's been night and day working with these guys. They came in right away. They talked about roof geometry credit. They talked about roof cliffs. They talked about all the things that we can be doing. Vito, the president next door, highly recommended these guys, and so I think we've got a good partner here right now to help us.
Thanks, Sean.
Okay, Jimmy is the guy that you just saw come in here to collect a check.
Yes.
He had to run. Jimmy is the company that's going to do the Belkay construction, the clips. Okay, so this is going to be something that everybody's got to really talk to their neighbors about, right? Because they're going to start next week. It takes about a week of building. Okay. Maybe they'll go faster, right? But so this is a long-term thing. But when they come in, you know how your roof comes down and you have the gutter on the front or a board on the front, right? The boards underneath are called the soffit, and you see a little vent in there. That soffit board is going to be coming down on all 4 sides of every building. And when they take those down, what they're going to do is they're going to come up and they're going to fix the clips, retrofit from that direction. So the key is, Jimmy's given a commitment to make sure that he's very cognizant of the landscaping. And we have some people that have landscaping that is just junglish, right? We're going to try to do the best, and he said, I'm going to do the best I can, right? The only thing I'm going to ask everybody to do, what we'll do is, we'll put it on the TV channel, we'll try to do some videos of what's going on, how they're doing, so you can kind of see. If you have any questions when they come, just please make sure you contact the office. And if you don't like what's happening, You know, because occasionally we get somebody in here doing work for us, and all of a sudden you see what they're doing and you get very upset with the way they're approaching it, right? Please try to refrain from yelling at the help, but definitely, but bring it to our attention, right? Because I know Al, our landscaper, all you have to do is tell me that we're having an issue over here, and we make a phone call. Between the three of us, we talk to Al directly to work on it, right? So this is going to be fairly disruptive, but it's going to save us, just to give you an idea, is it in that one?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, up to a 25% credit. So if you did the numbers, it would roughly equate to about $150,000 off of our current insurance bill, right? So we can't promise it's going to be 150 because they got to go through the work and it's got all the paperwork. But you can take a look at the number. Our budgeted amount, our actual is 602,000. So we budgeted 551,000 for our insurance. And that was basically flat to last year, right? We didn't know how much it would go up. We had no idea. So rather than taking a guess when we set our budget, we said, we're going to budget flat. So it went up to 602, and our assessment will be 51,000. So now take that 602,000 and take 150,000 off of it approximately. That's sort of in the target range of where we're going next year, assuming there's a catastrophic things happening within the insurance market. But these guys are all on it. This investment that we're gonna make of, wherever it is, 126,000 is gonna result in an annual savings of roughly 150,000. So the first year, we'll save like 25,000, right? And after that, it's 150,000, 150,000, 150,000, right? So these are the types of leverage things that we're trying to do. And again, this only is happening because we had the good advice from Brad and Tim on this thing. What came to us was we talked to Vito about what they're paying for insurance, and I'm like, what? How the heck can you guys be paying so little for insurance? Well, they got on this Citizens bandwagon several years ago, and Citizens can only go up by so much each year. But they redid all of their electrical panels and all of their line, 100%, right? 100%. That's a big, huge investment, right? Ours all need to be done, right? They also have roof clips. We don't have roof clips, right? So all of a sudden we started comparing notes, and it was like, okay, you want a good model of, an association that was thinking forward on insurance. They did a great job. So now we got to play catch up. So that's what this is. We approved this at the last board meeting. So at the last board meeting, we did the approval so that we can actually sign the contract. We had three vendors. These guys weren't the cheapest, but the thing that they came through with is they're going to actually replace any soffits or vents that are broken, and they're going to paint. The other contractors weren't doing that. They were going to charge us like $75 a sheet of plywood, and we would have had to have our own painting crew, right? So these guys will, Tom, you're dying to ask a question.
I was just wondering, can we elevate either to a gutter system, or would that require the roof to be off or something?
Yeah, at this point, this is the best option for us to get us the biggest credit. So we work with Brett.
Yeah, so if we were to do the single straps, it would have been more expensive to do that, but the credit wouldn't have warranted. This is the best option to be able to get the most credit back, because the biggest jump in credit is from toenails to cliffs.
Even long-term credit, even out, if you look out 5 or 10 years?
So let me give you, Tom, I'll give you the example. We did get a bid on the full strap, $10,000 a building versus 2.
Yeah. Okay.
So just multiply that by the number, right?
Yeah, just
And so actually, no, they don't have to go up into our attic.
No.
We're doing this
No, all from the outside. Full outside.
Yeah, and that's pretty rare, by the way. We've recommended this for other associations, and you can't believe what the massive undertaking if they had to go up through the attic access, because they had to get access to pretty much all units. So, and remember, folks, there will be a new windmill once this job is complete. Send it into your homeowner's insurance agent, because you're going to get credits for that too. Not just is going to be a reduction on the insurance here for you for your home.
Yeah. So, message to everybody: pass the rumor. If you're getting insurance, contact the office for the updated wind mitigations that we already have now. It's already been saving a number of unit owners some decent money on their insurance, right?
Because of the new roof.
Because of the new roof.
Right, but there'll be another one done after that.
And then there'll be another one next year, which will give you more. So.
When are we due for new roofs?
What's that?
When are we due for new
We're only
roofs?
we're 6 years in right now.
6 years into what?
16, no, we have 16 more. We're 4 years in. We have 16 years left.
20 years.
What's the timeline on this project? Our insurance is due in May, so obviously we're not gonna get it done this year. We'll get it.
You mean your homeowner's insurance?
Our homeowners.
Oh, okay, I got you, yeah. So the association's just renewed, but, so it'll be done by next year's renewal. I think you said it, I don't know what their plan is on a per building basis.
So what they're gonna do is, and that was the other benefit of this, Jimmy, this vendor, they are doing the wind mitigation and they're gonna do it after they finish each building. So when your building is done, it could be available to you. Okay, so we're gonna come up with a schedule of buildings. We were gonna try to take a couple of buildings that were easy access buildings right now to just get it going, right? Because again, let's not give them the most difficult building with the most plantings and landscape first. Let's get a little bit of, experience here.
There is an updated mitigation report when you do your insurance. Diane will give you that, and then after the roofs are done, there'll be another update.
Right. So the one that she has now was updated from the previous, and it's getting people decent credits on their unit insurance.
Does American Coastal, that's who you guys represent, right?
Well, that's the carrier that you have, we represent multiple carriers.
Do they offer coverage for inside?
They don't, it's separate, yeah, unfortunately, they don't. There's a few carriers that have entered back into the marketplace for, and by the way, what you guys carry is something called an HO6 policy, okay? By the way, just one other thing about your HO6 policies, just food for thought. Each one of those, as long as you're carrying windstorm coverage on it, every policy by statute has to have something in it called catastrophic special assessment clause. And by statute, they have to give you a minimum of $2,000 towards catastrophic special assessments. Your hurricane deductible here at the association is 5% of each building value. So if there was a major claim that happened here with the roofs, there would be a large assessment for that deductible. All you'd have to do is, you guys would do a letter, send it out, we're assessing because of it. Remember, it's gotta be catastrophic. It can't just be for repaving or repainting. It's gotta be an act of God that happens. But they'll give you $2,000 towards that special assessment that you're gonna get. So, just ask your homeowner's insurance agent though, if there's an option to increase that. Some carriers will give you $5,000 or $10,000, it's an extra $50 for the year.
So Tim and Brett, can you actually put that in the email?
Sure.
Because what we'll do is we'll get that out to all the units.
Yep.
Okay?
Yeah, exactly.
Any other considerations that they should make?
Sure.
And there's a number of people that don't carry insurance.
Right, that's, yep.
Okay, so we have 10 minutes left and a few more slides to go. So any more questions on insurance?
No tomatoes this time. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Okay, so let's go with a couple more. So there's this lovely Facebook page that is a community, not a community page, but it's a private page. Can we? It's everybody. There's a bunch of people on here that are on that Facebook page, but I happen to read on that page. So I happened to read on that page that there was this bill being worked on, and it's being worked on at the Senate level to actually provide funds to stormproof condos. So we did all the research on it. We actually have a tracer on it, and we're getting automatic follow-ups. It's not highly funded at this point in time, but when it gets to the Senate, hopefully our governor will decide to kick in some serious money on this thing. And what we're gonna be is at the ready to pull an application. Unfortunately, they don't allow you to pre-apply, right? So we gotta be there and be in the minute this thing comes to actually get on the list to get it, right? But we would put in, for example, for these clips. So how we're hitting the reserves for the clips, right? For the 126,000, we go put that right into this. We wanna be reimbursed by this fund for that 126,000. So we're pushing hard on that. I don't know where it will go. It hasn't been approved, but it's at the Senate level now. I'll make sure, this was in the email, I think, that went out, but that's coming. So in terms of new business that we have to approve, so we have our assessment of 51,000. If you break it up between the units, right, it's for a one bedroom, the one-time assessment is $203.
And then the assessment for a 2-bedroom is $232,000. We will be sending out the invoices on
What's the
May.
breakdown on 2-bedroom?
232.
232. Yeah.
And the 1-bedroom?
1-bedroom is 203.
Okay.
Okay, and in the PowerPoint, it shows you the distribution
Okay.
that's always used. Now, the bill is gonna go out on May 1, right? And if you are talking to anybody and they're thinking they have a little difficulty on this one, this is slightly less than last year, right? And remember, last year was quite a bit higher. We prefer not to do installment payments, but in the event that people actually have a hardship, right? Instead of not paying it at all and ending up with our attorney, just talk to us and we'll work out a plan, right? So, so this will be coming. I need to approve this, guys.
Is that in addition to what we already paid?
Yeah, it is.
Yep.
It's a one time. So
One month?
it's just one payment that you gotta pay, one single payment. So, and I'll tell you, the positive of doing a special assessment is we didn't increase your monthly rate. We didn't increase your monthly rate, which then goes on forever, right? So you pay this one time, next year when we start our budget, it's gone. You only paid it once.
It's a write-off.
What?
The assessment.
Well, I don't know.
I don't think so.
Okay, guys,
You wanna
let's-
write off $203, guys?
So I need a second.
Well, it adds up.
I second.
Yeah, second that.
Guys,
I second the motion.
all in favor? And if anybody has any questions about the numbers, wants to see the details on any of the stuff that we present, just please contact the office and I'll be happy to sit with you. A few people have already asked for it and I've gone through it with them, if you feel like doing that.
When will the assessment be due?
May 1, the bills go out. May 1.
Your bank fixed tomorrow.
So I have four items that we have to approve that will go against reserves. And so these are, we had exterior lighting for 1035. So remember we did all the lighting, right? And we've had a few people come back and say, it's still dark in my area, it's still dark in my area. So we've put in 10 additional lamps since we started this project. I want to let everybody know that we're going to pause putting anything new in for the rest of this year, because we've exceeded our full budget that we agreed to do those. And so what we'll do is next year, we'll get to a point where we can add a couple more. If it's really, really bad, obviously we'll do something. So I need, so that's $1,200 there. The next one is, I don't know if anybody was going around North Boulevard, the circle around by the forsythia or the ficus trees. And you saw this one guy's building that had the blocks all broken out. 840. He had his bike stolen, and they used a sledgehammer to bust up that decorative wall. So we ended up having to do special order blocks, and we had to install those. So it's $500. It took a while. They're done now. We just got those finished. So there's companies that do retro blocks, so we were able to find those. The other one is $572.62 to cover a water heater in 885. These water heaters are the ones for the laundry room, right? These are not somebody's personal laundry room. Somebody asked the question, how come you're replacing people's we're not. That you're responsible for yours. This was for 885. And then we have one is we have pumps that do all the irrigation, right? And occasionally they fail. This one failed. It needed to be totally rebuilt, and it was $1,393.78. So do I have somebody to second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, approved. We have, look at that, we have 5 minutes left, and we were gonna do a vote to adjourn. Does anybody have any questions that they want to bring up?
I have a question.
Sure.
People are starting to buy, like myself, cars that you plug in, prime they call it. So they're gas and electric. And you can drive, like with my car, I can drive it about 50 miles on gas. are there any thoughts moving forward of putting some charge places where we can plug our cars in?
You know, what we can do is let us.
I mean, it's in the future, we're all gonna be doing it.
Yeah.
We're
So
kind of in the-
let us put it on the, yeah, but wait, guys, let's just listen to the request, guys, right? Because we're not approving or denying anything here, we're listening, right? So again, you know, in many states, they have mandates, like up northeast, they have, you know, every building is doing it, right?
Yeah.
You know, if we can get a federal grant to put a couple of electric charging stations here in the parking lot by the pool convention, but we're gonna need to get money out of this, right? Right, well, yeah, but we would do that too, but it would be, you know, we need to get grant money, you know, but let us put it down, I think it's gonna become potentially more, I don't, you know, as we go.
Plus, we might give you a fee to hook up those charges.
Yeah, well, we would, go ahead.
Use your credit card.
On a safety note, can we get maybe a traffic mirror on High Point over North and North Drive?
Oh, you know, on the turn, John, when you make the turn, yeah.
You have to come all the way out.
Because
you're gonna make a left turn, because the fence and bushy.
Okay, well, John, we'll take that one down, that's a good suggestion. It's right over by my place, you know, when you go around the loop where the gully is.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah, and it's coming right between North and North Boulevard. Yes.
Okay, what's going on with people that are under 55 years old, living full-time in these condos?
So if the primary owner is over 55, they've gone through our background check, they're on the deed, they
They can have someone live there?
They can, but that person has also got to be either on the deed or they need to be registered. Each unit can only have up to 4 people, 4 adults. There is a limit on the age of kids, right? But they have to be registered. So, you know, whenever we see something like that, we reach out to the owner and we say, it looks like you have somebody living here. We didn't do a background check on them. We need to do a background check. We need to register them, right?
They have to be over 18, right?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what, I think it is 16 or 18.
Yes, under 18,
Yeah,
20,
it's-
30 days of the calendar year.
Well, how do we know if those people have been looked at?
We don't, you know, and again, the best we can do is, we've had a couple of people that have given us a heads up that we think there's extra people living in this building.
It's by people.
Could you just, you know, check into it? And then what we do in the office, we make a very gentle phone call to the people and say, hey, you know, what do you got, right? And, you know, I've knocked on a couple of doors so far, but you know, it's a gentle approach. This is not like we're going in to throw people on the streets, you know? I think everybody has a story.
That's where your rent is, and you get a lot of people that start renting it here. They can bring every Tom, Dick, and Harry living in there.
Okay, no editorial. Okay, any other questions before we adjourn? Okay, go ahead, question.
On the 75%, is that 75% of the total number of units? And if somebody does not respond, how does that mark go? To a no, to a?
Our lawyer is gonna go through that process of voting by proxy, and if you give up your right because you did not, can the association take your vote and make it on behalf of you? Okay, but we don't know what our bylaws read enough right now, and I don't wanna like say that that's what the answer is.
Okay.
The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna send a letter out, and we're gonna do some sort of survey, like, you know, just, you know, because we're trying to get an idea of where people's heads are on this thing. And if it comes back that there seems to be very good support for this thing, we'll push it to the next level, okay? Question in the back?
Yeah, you know, with the installation, I know they're gonna do building by building. Will we be notified, like, when they're gonna?
Yeah, we will. We're gonna get a schedule, and we'll start to let every building know, and when it's gonna come, and we'll try to keep it very active on the website and on the TV, so that you'll be able to kind of see in there. And if you have any questions, just make sure you call the office.
I think they're gonna start it from the last street.
Okay.
926 or something.
Okay, well, we'll get it out there. Tom, last question. You asked too many questions. We're gonna start, I think we're gonna start charging you $10 a question.
I stood. Just a comment. You guys have been doing a great job trying to get the cost of insurance down. But Marie did bring up a good point about the politicians. your governor in the state of Florida took $3.9 million from insurance companies as campaign contributions. Okay? He's passed legislation that.
Now, I'm getting into politics.
I know.
This is bullshit.
And no favor, insurance company.
Hey, guys,
If we're to go on the local level and state level, call them up, just like Marie said.
Okay, hey guys, let's do a vote to adjourn. Thank you everybody for coming.